Welcome to Beyond Vision Mindset, where we don't just talk about growth, we embody it. There's a quiet dignity in self-awareness, a kind of silent strength that doesn't demand recognition, but earns respect nonetheless. And yet so often we sabotage that respect without even realizing it. Not through big, destructive actions, but through subtle, corrosive habits that slowly erode the way people see us and the way we see ourselves. Today, we uncover 7 habits that might seem small on the surface, but they send a loud message that we haven't yet mastered the art of living, and in the eyes of others, whether we like it or not, these habits can cause them to look down on us. Not because they're judgmental, but because respect is earned through discipline, integrity, and the quiet grace of responsibility. Let's begin. 1. Gossiping, the coward's way of seeking relevance. Gossip is the language of those who have lost connection with their own purpose. It's easy to speak of others, their flaws, their failures, their private lives, when we feel uncertain about our own. It gives the illusion of importance, as if knowing someone else's secrets somehow grants us more value. But in truth, gossip reveals far more about the speaker than the subject. It shows insecurity, it shows pettiness, and worst of all, it shows a lack of moral discipline. The Stoics taught us to be masters of our speech, to let our words be few and meaningful. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Gossip is not the speech of a good man or woman. It is the speech of someone seeking shelter from their own inadequacy in the shadows of someone else's story. I remember when I used to engage in gossip as a form of social bonding. It felt harmless at first, but slowly, it started to feel empty. I noticed how it created mistrust, even among friends. I began to feel shame after each conversation, like I was stealing a piece of someone else's dignity just to entertain a moment. Eventually, I asked myself, would I want someone talking about me like this? The answer was obvious. So I made a choice, to speak with purpose or not at all, to talk about ideas, not people. And over time, I found my words carried more weight. I felt more respected, and more importantly, I respected myself. 2. Passive aggression, the quiet poison of cowardice. There's something uniquely corrosive about passive aggression. On the surface, it seems like restraint, a hidden jab instead of open conflict. But underneath, it's a form of emotional manipulation, a refusal to speak honestly while still intending harm. And make no mistake, it is a form of harm, not just to others, but to the one who delivers it. Passive aggression arises from fear of confrontation, fear of vulnerability, fear of being seen as too much or too emotional or too demanding. But in truth, it's a weakness dressed in sarcasm, a bitterness cloaked in politeness. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we react with passive aggression, we're not responding with strength, we're reacting with cowardice. We are refusing to confront reality directly, and that refusal slowly rots the foundation of our relationships. I used to struggle with this myself. Instead of saying what I felt, I would let it leak out in cold silences or cutting jokes. I convinced myself I was being clever, but in time, I saw how it hurt the people I cared about, and how it kept me emotionally isolated. One day, someone I loved said, "I never know if you're really okay or just pretending to be." That broke me, because they were right. I began to practice directness, with kindness, but with truth. And what I found was that people respected me more. They felt safer around me, because when you stop hiding behind your words, you give people permission to do the same. 3. Neglecting personal hygiene, the silent signal of self-neglect. Cleanliness may seem like a small detail, but in truth, it's one of the loudest statements we make about how we see ourselves. When you walk into a room, before you speak, before you act, your presence already says something. And if you look like you've stopped caring, people will believe that you have. This isn't about vanity, it's about self-respect. The Stoics were not obsessed with appearances, but they understood the power of self-discipline. Seneca wrote, "Let your personal character be a credit to your name." That includes how you care for your body, because your body is the vessel of your mind and your spirit. If you don't respect it, why should anyone else? I used to dismiss hygiene when I was in a dark place. Depression will do that. I thought, what's the point? But eventually I realized that the small rituals, a clean shirt, a shower, brushing my teeth, were not just chores. They were signals to my own soul, signals that I was still here, still trying, still worthy of care. When I returned to those routines, even when I didn't feel like it, something shifted. I worked taller, I felt more grounded, and slowly, people began treating me differently, not because I looked better, but because I carried myself like someone who mattered.
You don't need designer clothes or a perfect haircut.
Just show that you give a damn about yourself. That's all. Because when you care for yourself, the world takes notice. 4. Complaining, the habit that weakens the spirit. Complaining is something we all do from time to time. Life isn't always easy, and venting can feel like a temporary release. But when complaining becomes a habit, it becomes toxic. Constantly focusing on what's wrong in your life drains the energy from your own spirit, and it drains the energy of those around you as well. The Stoics believed that our power lies in how we respond to life's challenges. They taught us to focus not on what we can't control, but on what we can. It's easy to get caught up in the "why me" mentality, but that doesn't serve you, and it definitely doesn't earn you respect. I used to complain about everything. It was my way of dealing with stress, frustration, and disappointment. But over time, I realized that complaining only made me feel more powerless. It didn't change the situation. It didn't help me find a solution. It just kept me stuck in negativity. So, I decided to make a change. Instead of complaining, I began asking myself, what can I do about this? And instead of blaming others or circumstances, I started focusing on the actions I could take to make things better. I started keeping a gratitude journal, focusing on the things that were going well, and looking for solutions instead of problems. Slowly but surely, my mindset shifted. I felt lighter, I felt empowered, and I noticed that my conversations began to shift from complaints to ideas, from frustration to solutions. People began to respect me more, not because I was perfect, but because I stopped playing the victim. I was taking responsibility for my own life, and that earned me not just respect, but a sense of pride in myself. 5. Constantly seeking validation. There is no prison more suffocating than the need for constant approval. When your sense of worth is tethered to the opinions of others, you are no longer living. You are performing. Every action becomes a desperate attempt to be seen, to be liked. The Stoics warned us of this trap. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because growth requires the courage to stand alone, to do what is right, even if it makes you unpopular, to be silent when flattery is expected, to walk away when applause is withheld. I remember a time when I measured my worth by the number of compliments I received. If people praised me, I felt powerful. If they ignored me, I felt invisible. It was exhausting. I was even more a moment. But in solitude, I discovered something ancient and unshakable: self-approval. I stopped asking, "Do they like me?" and started asking, "Do I respect myself?" And slowly, my center of gravity shifted inward. I no longer needed the applause. I no longer feared the silence. I began to speak less but mean more. I chose presence over performance, and people noticed. Note 6. Interrupting others. The unseen sign of disrespect. There is a certain arrogance in the act of interruption. It says, without saying it, "My thoughts are more important than yours. What I have to say matters more than what you are saying right now." It may not always be intended that way. Sometimes it's impatience, or excitement, or just poor listening. But the effect remains the same. It erodes trust, connection, and respect. The Stoics taught us to master not only our speech, but our silence, to listen deeply before responding, to understand before judging. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference." And often, what makes no difference is our urge to control the conversation. True wisdom is content to wait. It is secure enough to let others speak without interruption. I used to interrupt constantly, not out of rudeness, but out of eagerness. I wanted to contribute, to help, to add my thoughts. But I didn't realize that what I was really doing was refusing to hold space for others. I was prioritizing my voice over theirs. It wasn't until someone gently said to me, "I don't feel heard when I'm around you," that I truly saw myself. It hurt, but I took it to heart. I began practicing silence. I waited for the pause instead of creating one. I learned to listen not just for facts, but for feeling. And the change was profound. People opened up more. They shared deeper truths. And I learned that sometimes the greatest respect you can give someone is simply to let them finish. 7. Acting entity entitlement is a silent killer of character. It. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Entitlement is rooted in craving. Craving recognition without effort, rewards without discipline, privilege without gratitude. It is a denial of reality, and it breeds resentment when reality doesn't comply. I used to feel this entitlement in subtle ways. I would expect people to accommodate me, to understand me, to show me grace, without offering those things in return. I thought my struggles justified my demands. But I didn't see that entitlement was closing doors. It was making me small. When I embraced humility, real humility, things changed. The truth is, people don't look down on you because of your failures. They look down when they sense you've given up on your own standard. When your habits or divination is going to take it shore, antally. But you can change that. Every habit we've explored today, from gossip to entitlement, is a chain. And the moment you become aware of it, you are holding the key. If this message stirred something in you, share it, subscribe, hit the bell. And if you'd like to support this kind of work, you can buy us a coffee, send a super chat, or a sticker as a token of your appreciation. We are here to rise above the noise, together. See you in the next one. Beyond Vision Mindset.